Emma Rose Sullivan had 4 minutes to convince a stranger to believe the unbelievable, or she'd vanish across state lines into a trafficking network where 3 children before her had already disappeared. For 4 days, she'd been trapped in a car with a woman who'd stolen her from a Denver museum by pretending to be her mother's friend. But Emma had one weapon her kidnapper didn't know about. The sign language her deaf best friend Lily had taught her over 2 years of recess conversations and lunchtime lessons. What the woman driving that white Honda Pilot didn't realize was that the rest stop she'd just pulled into, a Flying J on I-80 in the middle of a Wyoming blizzard, was Hell's Angels territory. And the massive biker standing by his Harley, touching the tattoo on his forearm that read Sarah Lynn Patterson, 2008-2019, knew every sign Emma was about to make. This is Emma and Ghost's story, and what happened in the next 18 minutes would prove that sometimes our greatest losses become someone else's greatest rescue. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Enjoy the story. Please see me. Please understand. Please help. Emma Rose Sullivan pressed her forehead against the cold window of the Honda Pilot's back seat and watched the snow fall in thick, heavy sheets across the Flying J parking lot. Her breath fogged the glass. She was 9 years old, 4'1", 58 pounds, with auburn hair in braids that hadn't been brushed in 3 days, and green eyes that hadn't stopped searching for help since the moment she realized she'd been taken. The woman in the driver's seat, who'd called herself Karen Mitchell online, who'd claimed to be her mother's friend, who'd smiled so kindly at the Denver Children's Museum 4 days ago, checked her phone for the 3rd time in 2 minutes. Her jaw was tight. Her fingers drummed the steering wheel. "We're stopping for gas and bathroom," the woman said without turning around. Her voice had lost its fake sweetness days ago. Now it was just flat and cold. "You stay quiet. You don't talk to anyone. If you try anything, I'll tell them you're my bratty niece throwing a tantrum. They won't believe you." Emma nodded. She'd learned not to argue. Arguing made the woman angry, and when the woman got angry, her grip got tighter and her voice got louder, and the zip ties around Emma's wrists, hidden under her too thin jacket sleeves, cut deeper into her skin. But Emma had also learned something else over 4 terrible days. She'd learned that adults didn't always listen to words, especially not the words of a 9-year-old girl claiming she'd been kidnapped when the woman with her looked respectable and spoke confidently and had an answer for everything. Emma had tried words at the motel in Colorado. "Excuse me, I need help. This isn't my mom." The desk clerk had looked at the woman, who'd smiled and said, "Divorce is hard on kids," and the clerk had nodded sympathetically and handed over the room key. She'd tried words at the gas station in Utah. "Please call the police. She took me." The cashier had glanced at the woman, who'd laughed and said, "She's mad because I won't buy her candy." And the cashier had rolled her eyes in understanding. Words didn't work, not when the woman was standing right there, watching, lying. But Emma had another way to communicate. A way her best friend Lily Chen had taught her. Lily was deaf, had been since birth. And for 2 years, Emma had been learning American Sign Language so they could talk without words. At first, it was just basic signs. Hello, thank you, friend. But Lily was patient, and Emma was determined, and their teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had started teaching the whole class basic ASL as part of an inclusive education program. Emma knew hundreds of signs now, including the ones for emergencies. Help, danger, Not safe. Lily had explained once, very seriously, that deaf people used hand signals when they couldn't speak, that in crowded places or emergencies, signing could get attention when shouting couldn't, that there were universal distress signals in the deaf community. Emma had never imagined she'd need them like this. The woman opened her door, and cold December air rushed into the car. 15 degrees, the dashboard had said. Emma's thin pink fleece jacket, all she'd been wearing when she was taken from the museum, wasn't enough. She'd been cold for 4 days straight. "Come on!" The woman's hand clamped on Emma's shoulder, pulling her from the back seat. Emma's feet hit the snowy pavement. Her sneakers, summer sneakers, not boots, were soaking wet within seconds. She shivered so hard her teeth chattered. The Flying J parking lot was maybe a third full. Truckers and travelers, all bundled in heavy winter coats, all moving fast to escape the storm. The blizzard had started an hour ago, and visibility was maybe 100 feet. Snow swirled in the wind, and Emma's eyes watered from the cold. She scanned the parking lot desperately, looking for someone. Anyone who might help. There, a family loading a minivan, mom buckling kids into car seats, dad checking tire pressure. Too busy, too focused on their own children. There, an elderly couple shuffling toward the convenience store entrance, arms linked, heads down against the wind. Too slow, too far away. There, truckers in a cluster by the diesel pumps, talking and laughing. Backs turned. Not looking. And then Emma saw him. A man. Massive, 6'3" at least, maybe 240 pounds, wearing a black leather vest over a gray hoodie despite the freezing cold. His vest had patches, a skull with wings, Hell's Angels, Wyoming, Sergeant at Arms. He stood by a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, holding a paper coffee cup in one gloved hand, staring at nothing. His face was weathered and sad, with a salt and pepper beard and deep blue eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He looked scary. He looked like someone her mother would have told her to avoid. But he also looked strong. Strong enough to help. Strong enough to stop the woman. Emma made a decision in the space between heartbeats. The woman was 3 steps ahead, pulling her toward the convenience store entrance. Emma stumbled deliberately, making the woman stop and turn. "Keep up," the woman snapped. Emma looked past her, looked directly at the biker. He wasn't looking at her yet. He was staring down at his coffee, his other hand touching something on his right forearm. A tattoo. Emma could just barely see. Letters and wings. Emma raised her right hand as naturally as she could, like she was stretching, like she was cold and trying to warm her fingers. But what she actually did was make the sign Lily had taught her 2 years ago. Help. Right fist placed on left open palm, both hands raised together in a lifting motion. She held it for 3 seconds. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. The biker's head turned. His blue eyes locked onto hers. Emma mouthed silently, carefully, "Please." Then she repeated the sign. Help. Slower this time. More deliberate. The biker's expression changed. His whole body went still, like he'd been turned to stone. Emma added a second sign. Danger. Both hands crossed at the wrists, shaking. The woman's hand clamped on Emma's shoulder, spinning her around. "Bathroom, now!" The fake sweetness was gone. The woman had seen Emma looking at someone. She was suspicious. Emma looked back over her shoulder as she was dragged toward the store entrance. The biker was staring at her. His coffee cup had fallen from his hand. Hot liquid steamed in the snow. Emma made one more sign. Desperate, tiny, hidden from the woman by her body. Not safe. Hands shaking in the air at chest level. Then the woman pulled her through the automatic doors, and the biker disappeared from view. Emma's eyes burned with tears she wouldn't let fall. She'd tried. She'd done everything Lily had taught her. She'd asked for help the only way she could. But would he understand? Would he believe her? Or would he look away like everyone else? James Ghost Patterson stood frozen in the Flying J parking lot, snow settling on his shoulders, coffee soaking into the ground at his feet, staring at the automatic doors that had just swallowed a 9-year-old girl and her kidnapper. Because that's what she was. A kidnapper. Ghost knew it in his bones, in his cop instincts, in the part of him that had raised a deaf daughter for 11 years and knew American Sign Language as fluently as English. That little girl had just signed help, then danger, then not safe. The exact signs his Sarah had used when she needed him. Ghost's hands were shaking. Not from cold, from recognition, from memory, from the way the universe sometimes reached across time and pain to put you exactly where you needed to be at exactly the right moment. December 19th, 4 days before the 5th anniversary of Sarah's death. He'd been riding from Cheyenne to Salt Lake City. Club business, a run he'd made dozens of times. But the blizzard had forced him to stop at this rest stop, this specific Flying J, at this specific time. And a child who knew sign language, a child in danger, had asked him for help using the language his daughter had taught him. Ghost pulled out his phone with hands that still trembled. His mind was racing through everything he'd seen in those 10 seconds. The girl, auburn hair in braids, green eyes, freckles, summer clothes in December, no coat, no gloves, no hat, shivering violently, face pressed against car window, desperate searching looks, fear in every line of her small body. The woman, 30-something, overdressed, too much jewelry, designer sunglasses in a blizzard, fake smile, tight grip on the girl's shoulder, suspicious eyes, white Honda Pilot with Colorado plates. The signs, perfect ASL, not guessing, not random hand movements, deliberate, practiced. Help, danger, not safe. The girl knew sign language, which meant she either had deaf family, deaf friends, or had been taught deliberately, which meant she was smart enough to know that signing could communicate when speaking couldn't, which meant she was trying desperately to ask for help without alerting the woman. Ghost had been a corrections officer for 6 years after retiring from the police force. Before that, he'd spent 20 years as a cop, including 5 years in crimes against children. He'd worked missing persons cases, Amber Alerts, child abductions. He knew what a kidnapped child looked like, and he knew that every second he hesitated was a second that girl got farther away. He dialed. 911, what's your emergency? This is James Patterson, Hells Angels Wyoming chapter, Sergeant at Arms. I'm at the Flying J Travel Plaza on I-80, exit 104, near Rock Springs. His voice was steady, cop-trained, calm despite the adrenaline flooding his system. I have a possible child abduction situation. Woman with a 9-year-old girl. The child signaled me for help using American Sign Language. She made the signs for help, danger, and not safe. The woman is not related to this child. I'm certain. Sir, can you describe the child and the woman? Ghost provided descriptions. Every detail. The girl's summer clothes in freezing weather. The woman's overdressed appearance. the white Honda Pilot with Colorado plates. He rattled off the license plate number. Cop habit, memorizing plates automatically. "And you're certain the child was asking for help?" "I'm certain. I'm fluent in American Sign Language. My daughter was deaf." His voice caught for half a second. "The signs were deliberate and clear. That child is in danger. Units are being dispatched. Can you maintain visual contact without approaching?" They went into the convenience store. I'm moving to a position where I can watch both the store exit and their vehicle. I will not lose sight of them. Ghost pocketed his phone, but kept the line open as he walked across the parking lot. 47 years old, and he moved with the quiet efficiency that had earned him his road name. Ghost. Silent. Observant. Always there when you needed him. He positioned himself near a pickup truck that gave him a clear line of sight to both the store entrance and the white Honda Pilot. And then he made a second call. The phone rang twice. "Vic, it's Ghost." Victor Vic Mendoza, 55 years old, 25 years in the club, president of the Hells Angels Wyoming chapter, answered immediately. "Brother, what's wrong?" Because Vic knew. Knew that Ghost didn't call during a supply run unless something was wrong. Knew that Ghost's voice had that specific tone, the one that meant someone needed help. "I need every brother within 50 miles at Flying J, I-80, exit 104, right now." A pause. 1 second of gravity. "What's going on?" "Child abduction in progress. 9-year-old girl. She signed to me for help. The woman with her is not her mother. I've called 911, but I need backup. I need witnesses, and I need to make sure this woman doesn't disappear before the cops arrive." "Say no more. We're coming." The line went dead. And that was it. No questions about proof or evidence. No concerns about legal complications. No debate. Just brothers moving toward danger because one of their own said someone needed help. That's what the patch meant. That's what Sergeant at Arms meant. You protected people. You stood between the vulnerable and those who'd hurt them. You showed up. Ghost watched the store entrance. Snow fell harder. 5 minutes passed. Then the automatic doors opened, and the woman emerged with the girl. Ghost's stomach tightened. The girl's face was red from crying. She'd been crying in the bathroom. The woman's expression was cold and angry. They started walking toward the Honda Pilot. Ghost moved. He didn't run. Running would spook her. Instead, he walked calmly, deliberately, across the parking lot and stopped directly beside the white SUV's driver's door. Not blocking it yet, just standing there, watching. The woman saw him. Her steps faltered. She changed direction, angling toward a different row of cars. Ghost followed at a distance, close enough to track them, far enough to not seem threatening yet. The woman's pace increased. She was pulling the girl faster. The girl stumbled. Her wet sneakers had no traction on the snow, and the woman yanked her upright. Ghost closed the distance. "Ma'am?" His voice was calm, neutral, non-threatening. "Is the little girl okay? She looks cold." The woman turned, her face a mask of fake concern. "She's fine, just cranky. We're heading to our car." "In this weather?" Ghost gestured at the blizzard. "She doesn't have proper winter clothes. No coat, no boots." "She's my niece." The woman's voice had an edge now, defensive. "We're fine. Please leave us alone." Ghost looked at Emma. "You okay, sweetheart?" Emma stared at him. Her green eyes were huge in her small face, terrified, hopeful, desperate. And she made a tiny sign, hidden from the woman by her body, just her right hand at her chest. Help. That was all Ghost needed. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911 again, holding it up so the woman could see. "Yeah, I'm still at Flying J. The woman and child I reported are in front of me right now. Northeast corner of parking lot. I need units here immediately." The woman's face went white. She grabbed Emma's hand and started running toward the Honda Pilot. Ghost didn't chase her. Chasing would make this a confrontation. Instead, he did something smarter. He walked to his Harley, threw his leg over the seat, fired the engine, that beautiful deafening roar, and rode straight to the Honda Pilot's driver's side door. Then he parked his bike sideways, directly in front of the door, so close the woman couldn't open it without hitting his motorcycle, killed the engine, pocketed the keys, crossed his arms. The message was clear. "You're not leaving." Rachel Voss, whose real name wasn't Karen Mitchell, whose online persona was as fake as her smile, stood 10 feet from her Honda Pilot and realized she was trapped. The biker was blocking her driver's door. The parking lot's only exit was on the far side of the building, and she could hear sirens now. Faint, but getting closer. She'd been so careful. 4 children before Emma, all successfully delivered. 4 payouts of $15,000 each. She had a system. She knew how to identify vulnerable single mothers online, how to build trust over months, how to take children in public places where confusion worked in her favor. She'd delivered 3 girls and 1 boy to her contact in Montana. All of them had vanished into the trafficking network without a trace. Emma was supposed to be number 5, supposed to be delivered tomorrow morning. December 20th, 10 a.m., at a warehouse outside of Billings. $15,000 on delivery. But she'd underestimated this child. Hadn't known Emma knew sign language, hadn't realized the girl would be smart enough to use it. Hadn't anticipated stopping at a rest stop in Hell's Angels territory where a biker who apparently understood sign language, would see her. Rachel's mind raced. She had maybe 2 minutes before police arrived. She could run. Grab Emma and run on foot. But where? The blizzard was getting worse. Visibility was almost zero. And she was wearing heels and a designer coat. She'd freeze before she made it a mile. She could lie. Claim Emma was her niece. Claim they were traveling to visit family. But the biker had already called 911, had already reported this as an abduction. And Emma would talk. Emma would tell them she'd been taken from Denver. Would tell them about the motel rooms and the zip ties and the lies. She could fight. Try to physically get past the biker, shove him off his motorcycle, force the door open. But the man was 6'3" and 240, and Rachel was 5'6" and 120. He'd snap her like a twig. She was caught. And she knew it. Rachel looked at Emma, this small, freckled girl who'd ruined everything, and felt a flash of pure rage. All the girl had to do was stay quiet for one more day. Just one more day. But Emma wasn't looking at her. Emma was looking at the biker with an expression Rachel had never seen on any of the children she'd taken. Hope. Wyoming Highway Patrol Officer Maria Santos and her partner, Officer Jeremy Jenkins, arrived at Flying J 7 minutes after Ghost's first call. 2 units, lights blazing, pulling into the parking lot in a choreographed approach that spoke to years of training. They'd been briefed en route. Possible child abduction. Adult male reporter was ex-law enforcement. Child had signaled using sign language. High reliability call. Santos saw the scene immediately. A massive biker in Hell's Angels colors standing beside his Harley, which was parked to block a white Honda Pilot's driver door. A woman in her 30s standing near the SUV, hands at her sides, looking trapped, and a small girl in summer clothes, shivering violently, standing between them. Santos approached with one hand near her weapon, the other holding her radio. "This is Officer Santos, Wyoming Highway Patrol. Everyone stay where you are." The biker didn't move, just nodded once. The woman started talking immediately. "Officer, thank God you're here. This man has been harassing us. He won't let us leave. He's been following us and blocking our car. My niece is terrified." Santos looked at the girl. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" The girl's voice was small, but clear. "Emma Sullivan, from Denver, Colorado." "Is this woman your aunt?" Emma shook her head. "No." The woman's face flushed. "Emma, stop lying. You're upset because I won't let you have candy, but lying to police. Ma'am, I need you to be quiet for a moment." Santos kept her eyes on Emma. "Emma, how old are you?" 9. "Where's your mom?" "Denver. I live with my mom. Her name is Jennifer Sullivan. She's a teacher." Emma's voice was shaking. "This woman took me from the Children's Museum 4 days ago. She said she was my mom's friend from online. She said my mom had an emergency and she needed to take me to her. But she was lying. She's been driving for days. She won't let me call my mom. I don't know where we're going." Santos's radio crackled. "Dispatch to Unit 7, Amber Alert Match. Emma Rose Sullivan, age 9, reported missing from Denver, Colorado, December 15th. Suspect vehicle, white Honda Pilot, Colorado plates." Santos's expression hardened. She looked at her partner, who'd moved to cover the woman from a different angle. "Jenkins, read her rights." The woman started backing away. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding. Ma'am, hands where I can see them. You're under arrest." Rachel Voss tried one more time. "She's lying. She's my—" "You have the right to remain silent," Jenkins said, moving forward with handcuffs. "I suggest you use it." As Jenkins cuffed Rachel and placed her in the patrol car, Santos knelt beside Emma. "Emma, you're safe now. You did exactly the right thing asking for help. You're very brave." Emma started crying. Not scared crying. Relief crying. 4 days of terror releasing all at once. "Can I call my mom? Please? She doesn't know where I am. She's probably so scared." "We're calling her right now," Santos promised. "You're going to talk to her in just a few minutes." A third patrol car arrived. Then a fourth. Within 10 minutes, there were 6 units in the Flying J parking lot, along with a detective in an unmarked car and a victim advocate van. And then, from the east, came a sound that made everyone look up. A rumble, low and deep, like thunder rolling across the mountains. 40 Harley-Davidson motorcycles appeared through the snow, riding in tight formation, engines roaring in unison. They pulled into the Flying J parking lot in disciplined rows and parked in perfect order across the far end. 40 Hells Angels. Wyoming chapter members. Every brother within 50 miles who'd heard Vic's call. They dismounted, killed their engines, and stood in silence. Not protesting, not interfering, just present. A wall of leather and steel that said, "We protect children, always." Detective Sarah Chen, 42 years old, 15 years with Wyoming Highway Patrol's Major Crimes Unit, approached Ghost. "Mr. Patterson?" "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Detective Chen. You made the 911 call." "I did." "Walk me through what you saw." Ghost explained. The signs, the girl's appearance, the woman's behavior, his decision to block the vehicle, his certainty that this was an abduction. Chen nodded slowly. "Mr. Patterson, you potentially saved this child's life. Rachel Voss is wanted in connection with 3 other missing children cases across 4 states. We've been looking for her for 18 months. if she'd made it to Montana, if she'd delivered Emma to her contact. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Ghost's voice was rough. "How's the kid?" "Scared but physically unharmed. We're getting her checked out, then reuniting her with her mother. Mrs. Sullivan is driving from Denver right now." Chen paused. "Mr. Patterson, can I ask you something? How did you know sign language?" Ghost touched the tattoo on his forearm. Sarah's name. The angel wings. "My daughter Sarah was deaf from birth. I learned ASL to talk to her. She died 5 years ago. School bus accident." His voice cracked. "December 23rd. 5 years ago." Chen's expression softened. "So when you saw Emma's signs, they were the same signs Sarah used when she needed me. Help, danger, not safe. My daughter taught me the language that saved Emma's life." Behind them, the 40 Hells Angels stood silent in the snow. Witnesses, protectors, brothers who'd dropped everything and ridden through a blizzard because one of their own said a child needed help. Officer Santos approached with Emma, who was now wrapped in a thermal blanket, wearing boots and a winter coat donated by the Victim Advocacy Center. "Mr. Patterson, Emma asked if she could meet you. Would that be okay?" Ghost nodded, not trusting his voice. Emma looked up at this massive, intimidating biker. This man with the sad eyes and the weathered face and the patches that said Hell's Angels. And she signed, "Thank you." Her small fingers moving in the sign they'd both learned from deaf people who'd taught them that communication could happen without sound. Ghost signed back. "You were very brave." Emma spoke aloud. "You know sign language." Ghost signed and spoke simultaneously. "My daughter taught me. She was deaf. She would be so proud of you for asking for help the way you did." "Where is your daughter?" Ghost touched his tattoo. "She's in heaven, but I think she sent me here to help you today." Emma thought about that. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Ghost's waist, hugging him as tight as she could. Ghost froze. The first hug from a child since Sarah died. Then, very gently, he rested one hand on Emma's head. "I'm sorry about your daughter," Emma whispered. "I bet she was really nice. She was the best person I ever knew. My friend Lily is deaf. She's the one who taught me sign language. She says angels watch over us. Maybe your daughter saw me and told you to help." Ghost's eyes burned with tears. "Maybe she did, kiddo. Maybe she did." The 40 Hells Angels who'd answered Vic's call didn't look like what the gathering crowd expected. There were no revving engines now. No shouting. No aggression. They'd parked their bikes in perfect formation across 3 rows. Military precision that came from years of riding together, from discipline that ran deeper than the patches they wore. When the engines cut off almost in unison, the sudden silence after all that noise felt heavy and expectant. Vic Mendoza, the chapter president, walked across the parking lot to where Ghost stood with the officers. Vic was 55, built like a tank, with a shaved head and a gray goatee. He'd served 2 tours in Iraq before coming home and joining the club 25 years ago. "Ghost," he said, gripping his sergeant-at-arms' shoulder. Then, to Detective Chen, "Ma'am, we're not here to interfere. We're here as witnesses and support, that's all." Chen studied the wall of bikers. She'd been a cop long enough to know that Hell's Angels got a bad reputation. Some of it earned, some of it stereotype. But these men stood calm and silent, arms crossed, simply present. "Appreciated," she said finally. "But we've got this under control." "Yes, ma'am." Vic didn't move. Neither did the other 39 brothers. They weren't leaving until Emma was safe. That was the unspoken message, And Chen, to her credit, understood it. Detective Chen's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her face went pale. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. Jesus Christ. She hung up and looked at the patrol cars where Rachel Voss sat handcuffed in the back seat. Mr. Patterson, I need to ask you something. When you saw Emma, did you notice anything specific about her appearance, beyond the summer clothes? Ghost thought back. She was underdressed for the weather, shivering badly. Her jacket was too thin. Her sneakers were soaking wet. No hat, no gloves. She looked like she'd been grabbed without time to pack appropriate clothing. And the woman? Overdressed, designer coat, expensive jewelry, trying too hard to look legitimate and wealthy. Chen nodded grimly. That tracks with the FBI's profile. Rachel Voss targets single mothers online. She spends months building trust. Then she takes their children in public places, museums, parks, shopping centers, places where confusion works in her favor. The mothers think their kids are with a friend. By the time they realize something's wrong, Voss is gone. How many? Ghost's voice was flat. 4 confirmed victims before Emma. 3 girls, 1 boy, ages 7 to 11. All taken from single mothers who'd befriended Voss online through parenting support groups. Chen's jaw tightened. The children were delivered to a trafficking network operating across Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas. We've been investigating for 2 years, but Voss always stayed 1 step ahead. Ghost felt sick. The other 4 kids? 2 were recovered 8 months ago when we busted a safe house in Billings. They're with their families now, receiving therapy. The other 2... Chen stopped. We're still looking. The weight of that settled over everyone. 2 children still missing. Still out there. Still in the network. Emma could have been the 3rd. Officer Santos brought Emma to the victim advocacy van, where a counselor named Lisa Martinez waited with hot chocolate, blankets, and donated winter clothes that actually fit. Emma, sweetheart, we need to ask you some questions about what happened. Is that okay? Santos kept her voice gentle. Emma nodded, wrapped in a blanket, holding the hot chocolate with both hands, like it was the most precious thing in the world. Can you tell me how you met the woman who took you? Emma's voice was small but steady. My mom met her online, in a group for single parents. Her name was Karen Mitchell. At least that's what she said her name was. They talked for a long time, like 6 months. Karen said she had a daughter, too. She showed my mom pictures. Did your mom ever meet Karen in person before the day you were taken? No. Karen said she was driving through Denver and wanted to meet. Mom thought it would be nice. She brought me to the Children's Museum because Karen said her daughter would like it. Emma's hands tightened on the cup. But Karen didn't have a daughter. She was lying about everything. What happened at the museum? Mom was buying tickets. Karen said she'd take me to the bathroom. I thought it was okay because Mom trusted her. But we didn't go to the bathroom. We went out a side door. There was a car waiting. Karen put me in the back seat and drove away. Did you try to get help? I tried to tell people at the first motel, the man at the desk. But Karen said I was her niece, and I was mad about the divorce. He believed her. Emma's voice cracked. I tried to tell a lady at a gas station, but Karen said I was being bratty about candy. The lady rolled her eyes and didn't listen. That must have been very scary. I stopped trying to use words, because Karen was always there, and she always had an answer that made me sound like a liar. Emma looked up at Santos. But my best friend Lily is deaf. She taught me sign language. I thought maybe if I couldn't talk, I could sign. And maybe someone would understand. That was incredibly smart, Emma. I tried signing to 6 people before the biker, at different stops, but nobody understood. Or they didn't want to get involved, or they thought I was just playing. Tears slid down Emma's cheeks. But he understood. He knew what I was saying, and he helped. While Emma gave her statement, Detective Chen questioned Rachel Voss in the interview room at the Rock Springs police station, where they'd transported her after processing at the scene. Rachel had lawyered up immediately, refusing to answer questions. But her phone, seized during the arrest, told a story she couldn't hide. Chen scrolled through the messages with her FBI liaison on speakerphone. "We've got texts going back 6 months to a Jennifer Sullivan in Denver," the FBI agent said. "Classic grooming pattern. Voss built trust slowly, shared fake photos of a fake daughter, positioned herself as a supportive friend." "What about contacts in Montana?" "There's a number she texted 3 hours ago. Arriving tomorrow morning. Weather delay. We're tracing it now, but it's likely her trafficking contact, the one who was expecting delivery of Emma Sullivan tomorrow at 10 a.m. Chen felt cold. Emma had been 18 hours away from disappearing into a network where 2 children were still missing. "There's something else," the FBI agent said. "We pulled Voss's financials. She's received 4 deposits of $15,000 each over the past 2 years, all from offshore accounts connected to the trafficking network. Each deposit corresponds with a missing child case. So she gets paid per child delivered." "Exactly. She's not the ringleader. She's a recruiter, a transporter, but she's a critical link in the chain. And now that we have her, we can work up the network." "What about the previous victims?" "The 2 we recovered 8 months ago, 7-year-old Mia Chen from Boise and 9-year-old David Rodriguez from Salt Lake City. Both identified Voss from photo lineups. They confirmed she was the one who transported them. We're building a federal case now. Multiple counts of kidnapping across state lines, child trafficking, conspiracy." Chen looked through the one-way glass at Rachel Voss, who sat at the table examining her manicured nails like this was a minor inconvenience. "What's the sentence looking at?" "With 4 confirmed kidnappings, 2 children still missing, and evidence of participating in a trafficking network. We're talking life without parole. Federal charges. She's not seeing daylight again." Back at Flying J, where the investigation was still processing the scene, witness statements were being collected. Officer Jenkins interviewed Dale Foster, a 56-year-old truck driver who'd been fueling up when Ghost blocked the Honda Pilot. Dale Foster, age 56, 30 years driving long haul. "I've driven I-80 for 3 decades, Dale said, leaning against his Semisa. "I've seen Hell's Angels at truck stops before. Never had a problem. Most of them are just regular guys who ride motorcycles. Today, I watched one save a little girl's life." "What did you see specifically?" Jenkins asked. "I saw the biker, big guy, Hell's Angels vest, standing by his Harley. Then I saw a woman with a kid heading toward a white SUV. The kid looked wrong, too cold, wrong clothes, scared face. The biker walked over, talked to them, and the woman got defensive real quick. Then he pulled out his phone and she tried to run. He blocked her car with his motorcycle." Dale shook his head. "It was the smartest thing I've seen. Didn't chase her, didn't grab her. Just made it impossible for her to leave. Then he waited for you guys. Perfect execution." "Did you interact with the woman or child?" "No, but I watched the whole thing. And I can tell you, that woman was lying when she said the kid was her niece. You could see it in how the kid looked at her. That wasn't family. That was fear." Jenkins noted everything. "Thank you, Mr. Foster. We'll need you to sign a formal statement." "Whatever you need. That biker's a hero." Officer Santos interviewed Patricia Reynolds, a 43-year-old mother of 3 from Utah, who'd been in the convenience store when Rachel and Emma entered. Patricia Reynolds, age 43, elementary school teacher. "I was buying coffee when they came in," Patricia said, her voice shaking. I saw them in the bathroom area. The woman was on her phone, texting. The little girl was crying. I could hear her through the door. Did you intervene? Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I didn't. I told myself it wasn't my business. I told myself maybe it was a custody dispute or the kid was having a tantrum. I told myself I didn't want to interfere. She wiped her face. I heard that little girl crying, and I walked away. I bought my coffee and left. And then 15 minutes later I saw the police cars and the bikers, and I realized, Ms. Reynolds, you're not responsible for what that woman did. But I could have helped. I could have asked questions. I could have called someone. Instead, I looked away. Patricia looked at Santos directly. I teach elementary school. I tell my students to ask for help when they need it. I tell them adults will listen. But when a child needed someone to listen, I didn't, and I'll have to live with that. Santos made notes. Ms. Reynolds, your statement will be part of the record, and I hope you'll remember this moment the next time something feels wrong. I will. I promise you, I will. The third witness was Thomas Chen, no relation to Detective Chen, a Wyoming state trooper who'd been off-duty, buying supplies with his family when the incident occurred. Thomas Chen, age 38, Wyoming state trooper, 12 years on force. I was with my wife and kids, Thomas said. We were loading groceries when the Hells Angels started arriving. 40 bikes, easy. I thought, this is about to get messy. Because that's what you assume, right? 40 bikers showing up means trouble. But that's not what happened, Jenkins prompted. No. They parked in perfect formation, killed their engines, and stood there, quiet, just watching, making sure that woman didn't escape and that little girl stayed safe. Thomas shook his head. I've been a cop for 12 years. I've seen bikers cause problems, but I've also seen them stop problems. Today, they stopped one. They didn't interfere with our investigation. They didn't threaten anyone. They just created a wall of witnesses that said, this child matters. We're not looking away. Did you interact with any of the club members? Yeah, their president, Vic, I think his name was, came over and introduced himself. Very respectful. Said they were there as support and witnesses. Asked if we needed anything. When I said we had it under control, he nodded and stepped back. But he didn't leave. None of them did. They stayed until that little girl was safe. Jenkins nodded. How do you feel about their presence? Initially? Nervous. 40 bikers showing up at an active scene isn't protocol. Thomas paused. But I'll tell you what I told my kids afterward. I said, remember this. Don't judge people by how they look. Judge them by what they do. Those scary-looking bikers, they protected a little girl. They showed up because someone said a child needed help. That's what real strength looks like. As the sun began setting over the Wyoming mountains, painting the snow in shades of orange and pink, Detective Chen gathered the key players. Ghost, Vic, Officers Santos and Jenkins, and the FBI liaison on speakerphone. Here's where we are, Chen said. Rachel Voss is in custody, facing federal charges. 4 counts of kidnapping across state lines, conspiracy to commit human trafficking, child endangerment, and participation in a criminal enterprise. The FBI is using her phone records to trace the trafficking network. We've identified her contact in Montana, and raids are being coordinated as we speak. What about Emma? Ghost asked. Her mother is 30 minutes out. Emma's been medically cleared. No physical injuries, but she'll need significant therapy. Child Protective Services has already assigned a caseworker. We're coordinating long-term support. Chen looked at Ghost. Mr. Patterson, I've been a detective for 15 years. I've worked dozens of missing children cases. Most of them don't end like this. Most of them... She stopped. What you did today, trusting your instincts, acting immediately, blocking that vehicle, it saved Emma's life. There's no question. I just paid attention, Ghost said quietly. Most people don't. That's the problem. Chen pulled out a file. I want to show you something. She opened it to reveal a case file from 18 months earlier. A photograph of a 7-year-old girl with dark hair and brown eyes. Sophia Martinez, taken from a park in Boise by Rachel Voss. Sophia's mother had befriended Voss online. Same pattern. Voss offered to watch Sophia at the park while the mother took a phone call. When the mother turned around, they were gone. Ghost's jaw tightened. What happened to her? Sophia was transported to Montana, held in a safe house for 3 weeks before we found her during a raid. She's home now. Alive. But she spent 3 weeks in hell because Rachel Voss targeted her mother's loneliness and vulnerability. Chen pulled out another file. Mia Chen, age 7. Same story. Online grooming, public abduction, transported to Montana. Found in the same raid as Sophia. Another file. David Rodriguez, age 9. Taken from a shopping mall in Salt Lake City. Found during a different raid in North Dakota. He'd been missing for 2 months. Chen's voice was hard. Rachel Voss has been doing this for at least 2 years. 4 successful deliveries that we know of. 2 children still missing. Jessica Park, age 8, from Seattle, and Connor Walsh, age 10, from Phoenix. Both taken by Voss. Both vanished into the network. Both still out there. She closed the files. Emma Sullivan was going to be number 5. She was 18 hours away from being delivered to a warehouse in Billings, where she'd have been sold to the highest bidder and disappeared forever. If you hadn't seen her signs, if you hadn't blocked that exit, if you hadn't trusted your gut, we'd be adding Emma to the list of missing children we're still searching for. The weight of that settled over everyone in the room. So when I say you saved her life, Chen continued, I mean it literally. You stopped a trafficking operation in progress. You gave us the break we needed to trace the network. And you gave Emma Sullivan her life back. Ghost touched the tattoo on his forearm. Sarah's name. The angel wings. My daughter saved her, he said quietly. She taught me the language. She's the reason I understood. Then your daughter's legacy just saved another little girl's life, Chen said. That's something to hold on to. At 6:47 p.m., a silver Honda Accord pulled into the Rock Springs police station parking lot, tires screeching as it stopped. Jennifer Sullivan burst out of the driver's seat and ran toward the station entrance. Her brother David was right behind her, trying to keep up. Inside, Emma sat in a comfortable interview room, wearing donated clothes, drinking hot chocolate, coloring a picture with crayons the victim advocate had provided. She looked up when the door opened. Mommy! Emma launched herself across the room and into her mother's arms. Jennifer Sullivan collapsed to her knees, holding her daughter, sobbing into Emma's auburn hair. Baby, oh God, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. You didn't know, Mommy, Emma said, crying too. She tricked you. She was really good at lying. I looked for you everywhere. I called the police. I posted your picture on every website I could find. I drove to every place I thought she might take you. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just looked and looked and... I'm okay, Mommy. I'm safe now. A biker saved me. Jennifer pulled back, looking at her daughter's face. A biker? He knew sign language, like Lily uses. I signed for help, and he saw me. He blocked the car so she couldn't take me away. I want to meet him, Jennifer said immediately. I need to thank him. Officer Santos opened the door. Mrs. Sullivan, Mr. Patterson is in the waiting area. I can take you to him if you'd like. Ghost stood when they entered. This massive, intimidating man in his Hell's Angels vest, with his weathered face and sad eyes, and the tattoo that honored a dead daughter. Jennifer Sullivan looked at him and saw exactly what Emma had seen. A protector. "You're James Patterson?" Her voice was shaking. "Yes, ma'am." "You saved my daughter." Ghost shook his head. "She saved herself. She was smart enough to ask for help. I just understood what she was saying. The police told me about your daughter, about Sarah. I'm so sorry for your loss." "Don't be," Ghost said gently. "Sarah taught me the language that saved Emma. In a way, my daughter saved yours. That's a gift. Knowing her life meant something beyond the grief." Jennifer stepped forward and hugged him. This stranger, this biker, this man who'd given her back her child. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing her. Thank you for acting. Thank you for not letting her disappear." Emma tugged on Ghost's vest. "Can I show Mommy your motorcycle?" Ghost smiled. A real smile, the first in days. "Sure, kid." Outside, in the parking lot where 40 Hells Angels still stood watch, Emma showed her mother the Harley-Davidson that had blocked the Honda Pilot's door. "This is what stopped her from driving away," Emma explained. "He parked it right in front so she couldn't leave. And then the police came and arrested her." Jennifer looked at the motorcycle, then at Ghost, then at the 40 bikers who'd stood in the snow for hours because one of their brothers said a child needed help. "I don't know how to thank you all," she said. Vic stepped forward. "You don't need to, ma'am. We protect kids. That's what we do. Always have. Always will. But you dropped everything. You rode through a blizzard. You stayed for hours." "That's what brotherhood means," Vic said simply. "Ghost called. We came. A little girl needed protecting. We protected her. That's not something you thank people for. That's just being human." Emma signed to Ghost. "You're my hero." Ghost signed back. "No. You're mine. You reminded me why I'm still here." And in that moment, in a police station parking lot in Rock Springs, Wyoming, surrounded by 40 Hells Angels and a blizzard that was finally easing, something broken in James Ghost Patterson's heart began, just barely, to heal. 3 months later, on a cold March morning, Ghost received a letter from Denver. It was handwritten, in a child's careful printing, with drawings of motorcycles in the margins. "Dear Ghost, Mom says I should write to you, because talking about what happened helps me heal. My therapist, Dr. Chang, says that too. I've been going to therapy twice a week since I got home. At first I didn't want to talk about it, but Dr. Chang is really nice and she never makes me feel bad for being scared. I'm back in school now, 4th grade. My teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, knows what happened, but the other kids don't. Mom said I can tell people if I want to, but I don't have to. I told Lily, though. She's my best friend, the one who taught me sign language. She cried when I told her that the signs she taught me saved my life. She said she's proud of me. The police said that the bad lady is going to prison for a really long time. They said she can't hurt any more kids. That makes me feel safer. Mom wanted me to tell you that we're doing okay. She had to take time off work after I came home, but her school was really understanding. The Hells Angels chapter in Denver, Mom says you called them, helped us with money for therapy, and they even paid our rent for 3 months while Mom couldn't work. We didn't ask for that. They just did it. I still have nightmares sometimes. But when I wake up scared, Mom is always there. And I remember that you helped me, that you saw me when I needed someone to see me. Lily and I are teaching our whole class more sign language. We did a presentation about how ASL saved my life. Now everyone in my class knows the signs for help, danger, and not safe. Mrs. Rodriguez said it's important for kids to know lots of ways to ask for help. Thank you for blocking the car. Thank you for calling the police. Thank you for understanding what I was saying. Love, Emma P.S. Mom says we can visit this summer if you want. I'd like to see your motorcycle again. Ghost read the letter 3 times, sitting in the Granite Riders Clubhouse in Cheyenne, with his brothers around him. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his wallet, next to the picture of Sarah he always carried. Rachel Voss's federal trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimony from Emma Sullivan, testimony from Sophia Martinez, Mia Chen, and David Rodriguez, the 3 children recovered before Emma. Financial records showing 4 $15,000 payments, text messages coordinating deliveries, phone records connecting her to the trafficking network. Ghost attended every day of the trial, sitting in the gallery in his Hell's Angels vest, making sure Rachel Voss saw him, making sure she knew that someone had been paying attention. When the verdict came back, guilty on all counts, Ghost felt something release in his chest. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just closure. The judge handed down the sentence without hesitation. Ms. Voss, you targeted vulnerable families. You exploited their loneliness and trust. You took children from their homes and delivered them to people who would abuse them. You participated in a network that treats children as commodities. You showed no remorse, no conscience, no humanity. The judge's voice was cold and final. I hereby sentence you to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. May you spend the rest of your days understanding the magnitude of what you've done. Rachel Voss stared straight ahead, her face blank. But Ghost saw her hands shake. Good, he thought. Be scared. Feel powerless. Know what those children felt. Outside the courthouse, Detective Chen found Ghost on the steps. The FBI traced the network, she said. Voss's testimony, she cooperated once she realized she was looking at life, led to 14 arrests across 5 states. We found Jessica Park and Connor Walsh, the 2 kids who were still missing. Ghost's throat tightened. They're alive? They're alive. Both of them. Jessica was in a safe house in Rapid City. Connor was in Missoula. Both recovered. Both reunited with their families. Chen's eyes were bright. Because you stopped Rachel Voss in that parking lot, we got the information we needed to trace the entire network. You didn't just save Emma. You saved 6 children. Ghost couldn't speak. Could only nod. There's something else, Chen said. The U.S. Attorney's Office wants to recognize you. Civilian commendation for heroism. Are you okay with that? Ghost shook his head. I don't need recognition. I just need to know those kids are safe. They are. Because of you. 6 months after Emma's rescue, the Hells Angels Wyoming chapter held a meeting at their clubhouse in Cheyenne. Vic stood at the head of the table, looking at the 23 members gathered there. Brothers, we need to talk about what happened with Emma Sullivan, about what Ghost did, and about how we can make sure more people know how to recognize when a child needs help. He pulled out a stack of papers. I've been working with child advocacy groups and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We're creating a program, teaching people to recognize signs of child abduction and trafficking, teaching them basic ASL signs for emergencies, distributing cards with warning signs and what to do if you see something wrong. Tank, a 49-year-old former combat medic, spoke up. What kind of training? Workshops, Vic said. We'd run them at community centers, schools, churches, teaching people to pay attention, to trust their gut when something feels wrong. To understand that children in danger often can't speak openly, but they're trying to communicate in other ways. Reaper, a 52-year-old former detective, nodded. Like Emma using sign language. Exactly. We'd teach basic ASL signs. Help, danger, not safe. We'd teach people what a scared kid looks like versus a bratty kid. We'd teach them how to intervene safely, calling 911, becoming a witness, creating obstacles for abductors without putting themselves in danger. Chains, a 38-year-old former teacher, leaned forward. What would we call it? Ghost spoke for the first time, his voice rough. Sarah's signs. Everyone looked at him. We call it Sarah's signs, Ghost repeated. After my daughter, because she taught me the language that saved Emma. And if we're going to teach people ASL for emergencies, we should honor the deaf community that created that language. We should honor the kids like Sarah who need these signs every day just to communicate. The room was silent for a moment. Then Vic said, All in favor? Every single hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation. Not a single dissenting voice. 23 men voting unanimously to create a program that would teach people to see children who needed help. 1 year after Emma's rescue, the Sarah's Signs program graduated its first class of 50 participants, teachers, parents, community leaders, and everyday citizens who wanted to know how to help. Ghost stood at the front of the Cheyenne Community Center, teaching ASL signs to a room full of people who'd given up their Saturday morning to learn. This is the sign for help, he demonstrated, placing his right fist on his left open palm and raising both hands together. In the deaf community, this is a universal distress signal. If you see a child make this sign, pay attention. Something might be wrong. He showed them danger. Not safe. Scared. These signs saved Emma Sullivan's life, he said, because she learned them from her deaf best friend, because she was smart enough to use them when she couldn't speak openly, and because I knew what they meant. A woman in the front row raised her hand. How do we know when to intervene? What if we're wrong? Then you're wrong, Ghost said simply, and you apologize. But if you're right, you might save a life. I'd rather look like an idiot blocking a parking lot exit than let a child disappear because I was too worried about being mistaken. He paused, looking around the room. Rachel Voss, the woman who took Emma, counted on people looking away. She counted on bystanders thinking, it's not my business, or someone else will handle it, or I don't want to interfere. Predators rely on our discomfort with confrontation. They rely on our hesitation. Don't give them that advantage. After the workshop, a young mother approached him with her 6-year-old daughter. Mr. Patterson, my daughter wanted to meet you. She learned about Emma's story at her school. The little girl looked up at Ghost with serious eyes. I learned the help sign. If I'm ever in trouble, I'll use it. And I'll keep trying until someone sees me, like Emma did. Ghost knelt to her level. That's exactly right. You keep trying. Someone will see you, I promise. 3 years after Emma's rescue, the Sarah's Signs program had expanded to all 50 Hells Angels chapters across the country. The statistics were staggering. 4,200 people trained in recognizing signs of child abduction and trafficking. 12 children saved by program graduates who recognized distress signals, basic ASL instruction, provided to 127 schools across 15 states. Partnership with National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, resulting in nationwide awareness campaign. 3 of those 12 saves involved ASL signs. A 10-year-old boy in Oregon signed help to a grocery store employee who'd taken the Sarah's Signs workshop. A 7-year-old girl in Texas signed danger to a waitress who'd learned basic ASL from the program's materials. An 8-year-old in Florida signed "not safe" to a librarian who'd attended a Hell's Angels training session. Each time, someone paid attention. Each time, someone trusted their gut. Each time, a child went home. On December 23rd, the 5th anniversary of Sarah's death, Ghost visited her grave in the Cheyenne Cemetery. It was snowing softly, the way it had been snowing that terrible day when the school bus had slid off the icy highway into the ravine, when he'd gotten the call that had ended his world. He knelt in front of the headstone, pink granite with angel wings carved into the top. Sarah Lynn Patterson, 2008, 2019. Beloved daughter. Her hands spoke love in every sign. Ghost signed to the grave, the way he always did, talking to his daughter in the language they'd shared. Sarah, sweetheart, Daddy has something to tell you. He signed slowly, tears freezing on his cheeks. 3 years ago, on December 19th, a little girl made your signs. She was scared and alone and being taken by a bad person. She signed help and danger and not safe. The same signs you used when you needed me. His hands moved through the cold air, forming the shapes Sarah had taught him 13 years ago when she was just learning to communicate. And Daddy saw her, because you taught me to see. Because you taught me the language. Because loving you prepared me to help her. Ghost touched the headstone, cold granite under his gloved hand. We created a program in your name. Sarah's Signs. We're teaching people ASL for emergencies. We're teaching them to pay attention. We're teaching them that children in danger need adults who will see them and believe them and act. He spelled out the numbers in ASL. 12 kids saved so far. 12 kids who went home because someone learned the language you used every day. 12 families who got to keep their babies because you taught your daddy to listen with his eyes instead of his ears. Ghost's voice broke. I miss you so much, baby girl. Every single day. But I'm starting to understand something. Your life wasn't just about the 11 years we had together. It was also about what you taught me. About how that knowledge saved Emma. About how your legacy is still protecting children. He placed the sunflowers he'd brought, Sarah's favorite, against the headstone. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for still taking care of your daddy. Thank you for sending me to that rest stop at exactly the right time. Thank you for reminding me why I'm still here. Behind him, a voice spoke softly. I think she's very proud of you. Ghost turned. Emma Sullivan stood there with her mother. 12 years old now, taller, confident, wearing a winter coat that actually fit. Her auburn hair was loose around her shoulders, and her green eyes were bright with tears. Emma? Ghost's voice was rough. What are you doing here? We drove up from Denver, Jennifer Sullivan said. Emma wanted to visit Sarah's grave on the anniversary, to say thank you. Emma stepped forward and knelt beside Ghost. She looked at the headstone, reading the inscription. Then she signed, Thank you for sending your daddy to save me. She spelled Sarah's name in ASL, her fingers forming the letters carefully. You're teaching other kids, Emma said aloud. I saw the website for Sarah's Signs. Lily and I showed it to our school. We're doing a presentation next month about how ASL can save lives. Your friend Lily, Ghost said. How is she? She's amazing. We're in 7th grade now. She wants to be a teacher for deaf kids when she grows up. And Emma paused, smiling. I want to teach sign language too. I want other kids to learn what Lily taught me, so if they're ever in trouble, they have more ways to ask for help. Ghost's chest felt tight. Sarah would love that. Do you think she knows? Emma asked. That her language saved me? I think she does, Ghost said. I think she's proud of both of us. You for being brave enough to ask for help, me for being smart enough to see you, And Lily for being the kind of friend who teaches someone a whole language just so they can talk to each other. Emma pulled something from her pocket. A photograph, slightly worn. This is Lily and me. I wanted Sarah to see her, the friend who saved my life without even knowing it. She placed the photo against the headstone, next to the sunflowers. Two 12-year-old girls, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. One speaking with her voice, one speaking with her hands, both speaking the language of friendship. Ghost looked at the photo, at the sunflowers, at the headstone that honored his daughter. And he realized something. Sarah's death hadn't been meaningless. Her life hadn't ended in that snowy ravine 5 years ago. It had expanded, transformed, become something bigger than one girl, one father, one grief. Her legacy was Emma, safe at home. Sophia and Mia and David and Jessica and Connor, all rescued because Ghost had stopped Rachel Voss. The 12 children saved by people who'd learned Sarah's signs. The hundreds of kids learning ASL in schools across the country. The thousands of adults being taught to pay attention, to trust their instincts, to act when children needed them. Sarah's life had become a ripple that spread outward, touching people she'd never met, protecting children she'd never known, teaching the world that communication comes in many forms, and all of them matter. Ghost signed to his daughter's grave one more time. Your voice isn't silent, baby girl. It's louder than ever, and it's still saving people. The three of them stood in the snow. A biker, a teacher, and a 12-year-old girl, connected by loss, by rescue, by the language that had bridged the space between desperation and hope. As they walked back toward the cemetery entrance, Emma took Ghost's hand. She signed with her free hand. "You're my hero." Ghost signed back. "No, you're mine. You reminded me that pain can have purpose." Emma smiled. "My therapist says that healing doesn't mean forgetting what hurt you. It means learning to carry it in a way that makes you stronger." "Your therapist is smart." "She is. She also says I should keep telling my story, because other kids need to know that asking for help works, that there are people watching, that you're never completely alone, even when it feels like it." They reached the parking lot where Jennifer waited by their car and where 40 Hell's Angels had gathered. Word had spread that Ghost was visiting Sarah's grave, and the brothers had come to stand with him, the way they always did. Vic approached, gripping Ghost's shoulder. "How you doing, brother?" "Better," Ghost said. And he meant it. Because for the first time since Sarah died, December 23rd didn't feel like just an anniversary of loss. It felt like a reminder of legacy, of love that outlived death, of the way our greatest pain could become someone else's greatest rescue. The final message. This story isn't really about motorcycles or patches, or even about one rescue on a snowy December afternoon. It's about the ways we communicate when words fail us. About the languages we learn for love, and how those languages can save lives in ways we never imagined. Emma Sullivan learned American Sign Language because she wanted to talk to her best friend, Lily. A simple act of friendship. A child's desire to connect with someone who communicated differently. 2 years of lunch periods and recess conversations, learning a language most of her peers never bothered with. That friendship saved her life. James Ghost Patterson learned American Sign Language because he wanted to talk to his daughter, Sarah. A father's love for a child who couldn't hear. 13 years of patient practice, of learning to listen with his eyes, of discovering that communication is about connection, not sound. That love saved Emma's life. And now, 3 years later, 4,200 people have learned basic ASL through Sarah's signs. Not because they have deaf family members, not because they're required to, but because they understand that giving children more ways to communicate gives them more ways to ask for help. 12 children are alive and home because someone in a parking lot or grocery store or library recognized that a child's hands were saying what their mouth couldn't. If you've ever felt invisible, this story is for you. Emma felt invisible for 4 days. She tried to tell people with words, and they didn't believe her. But she kept trying. She found a different way to communicate. She trusted that someone, somewhere, would understand. And someone did. If you've ever lost someone and wondered if their life mattered, this story is for you. Ghost lost Sarah and carried that grief for 5 years. But Sarah's legacy, the language she taught her father, saved a child she never met. Her life mattered in ways Ghost couldn't have imagined when he was drowning in loss. There are Emmas everywhere. Children in danger. People who need help but can't ask openly. Victims who are trying desperately to signal distress in whatever way they can. And the question is, are you paying attention? You don't need to know sign language to help, though learning even basic signs can save a life. You don't need to be 6'3" or ride a Harley or wear a patch. You just need to be willing to see people who are trying to be seen. Pay attention in public spaces. Notice when someone looks wrong, when their body language doesn't match their words, when a child seems too scared, when an adult's grip seems too tight. Trust your instincts when something feels off. Ghost could have talked himself out of acting. Could have thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's none of my business. But he trusted his gut. And he was right. Be willing to cause a scene if necessary. Ghost blocked a parking lot exit, made himself impossible to ignore, forced a confrontation. He risked looking foolish. He risked being wrong. But he chose potential embarrassment over letting a child disappear. Teach the children in your life that asking strangers for help in real emergencies is okay. Emma knew about stranger danger, but she also knew that when you're in genuine danger, you ask anyone strong enough to help. That's not contradictory. That's survival. Learn basic emergency signs. Help. Danger. Not safe. 3 simple signs that could help you recognize when someone needs you. The Sarah's Signs program has free resources online. 5 minutes of learning could save a life. And if you're someone who communicates differently, if you're deaf, if you use sign language, if you've taught someone ASL out of friendship or love, know that your language matters. Your way of communicating isn't less than. It's powerful. It creates connections that save lives. Lily Chen taught Emma Sullivan sign language because they were friends. That friendship became a lifeline 3 years later. Your kindness matters in ways you may never see. Ghost visits Sarah's grave every December 23rd. But now, instead of carrying only grief, he carries gratitude. Gratitude that his daughter's life had meaning beyond her 11 years. Gratitude that love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms, expands, becomes something larger than loss. Emma Sullivan is 14 now. She speaks at schools about the importance of learning ASL and paying attention to people who need help. She's teaching a new generation that communication comes in many forms, and all of them deserve respect. The Sarah's Signs program continues to grow. Last month, a 15-year-old in Pennsylvania signed help to a gas station attendant who'd learned ASL through the program's online course. The teenager had been missing for 6 days. She's home now because someone understood her hands when her mouth couldn't speak freely. That's 14 children saved, 14 families reunited, 14 stories that ended with rescue instead of loss. Because people paid attention. Because people learned a language they didn't have to learn. Because people chose to see instead of looking away. If this story moved you, subscribe to Gentle Bikers and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below. Have you ever learned something unexpected that later proved invaluable? Have you taught a child in your life that there are many ways to ask for help? Your awareness matters. Your willingness to act matters. Your decision to learn even one sign, even one word in a language you don't speak, could be the difference between a child coming home and a child disappearing forever. Tell us where you're watching from, because this story proves that child abductions can happen anywhere, and that heroes don't wear capes. They wear leather, they pay attention, and they believe children when children ask for help in whatever way they can. And remember, love outlives us. It becomes knowledge that saves strangers. It becomes programs that protect thousands. It becomes the reason someone else's child comes home safe. Sarah Lynn Patterson never met Emma Rose Sullivan. But Sarah's language, taught to her father through years of patient love, saved Emma's life in a snowy parking lot 5 years after Sarah died. That's how love works. It outlives us. It ripples outward. And it reminds us that even our greatest losses can become someone else's greatest rescue.